3,000 missiles, civilian buildings, airport runways, oil terminals. Iran didn't just attack a neighbor, it attacked the one country quietly keeping its entire financial empire alive. And now that country is done looking the other way. If you've been following this conflict, what happened in the last 48 hours changes everything. Stay with me, because by the end of this video, you'll understand exactly why the Islamic regime may be facing its final economic chapter, and why almost nobody is talking about the full picture. Let's start with the headline that shocked the oil world. Yesterday, the UAE announced its withdrawal from OPEC effective May 1st, the first time in over 35 years it has taken this step. The UAE was OPEC's third largest producer. Leaving means freedom to produce as much oil as the market demands, without waiting for a committee that includes Iran to approve production quotas. The UAE's energy minister stated the country could scale up to 6 million barrels per day if buyers are found, nearly triple its current output. For everyday consumers, that's potentially lower oil prices in the long run. For Iran, it's a geopolitical knife to the throat. But here's what most coverage is missing. The UAE leaving OPEC isn't just an economic decision. It's a declaration, and if you want to understand why this declaration was inevitable, you need to understand what Iran actually destroyed when it started firing those missiles. If you're finding this valuable, hit like right now. It genuinely helps us reach more people who need to see this. For over 2 decades, the UAE was something the world rarely creates, a financial sanctuary for a sanctioned state. When Washington sealed Iran's banking access in 2010, when European restrictions tightened in 2012, and when Trump's maximum pressure policy in 2018 closed the dollar economy entirely, the UAE quietly remained open. Iranian elites, IRGC commanders, regime-connected businessmen, they all ran money through Dubai, shell companies with no named owners, opaque corporate structures, certificate of ownership arrangements where billions in trading volume had no traceable human face behind them. The same loophole Russia began exploiting after 2022. Iran had built an entire shadow banking architecture inside the UAE, moving tens of billions in illicit revenue, funding proxy networks, purchasing missile components, and keeping regime insiders wealthy while ordinary Iranians suffered. And the UAE, for years, chose not to look too hard. Then Iran launched 2,800 missiles and drones at the country that was protecting it. Now here is where the story gets brutal. And this is the part Iran clearly did not think through. The UAE was never a military participant in this war. It didn't allow American bases to strike Iran. It didn't open its airspace for U.S. operations. Its only offense in Iran's eyes was signing the Abraham Accords and recognizing Israel as a state. That was enough for Tehran to rain destruction on UAE airports, ports, oil facilities, and civilian apartment buildings. More strikes than Iran launched at Israel, a country that was actively bombing Iranian soil. Think about that. Iran attacked its financial lifeline harder than it attacked its declared military enemy, and the response has been swift, strategic, and absolutely devastating. Just yesterday, the US Treasury Department announced Operation Economic Fury, designating 35 entities and individuals running Iran's shadow banking architecture. These networks were responsible for processing illicit oil sale revenues, sourcing components for Iran's missile programs, and wiring money to terrorist proxies across the region. Over the last 2 weeks, U.S. sanctions against Iran have intensified at a pace not seen since the original maximum pressure campaign. The key reason this is happening now, with this precision and this speed, is that the UAE is actively feeding intelligence and cooperation to Washington. Before this war, that cooperation did not exist at this level. We update our analysis every single day, so subscribe below and turn on notifications so you never miss a development like this one. And it gets worse for Tehran. Today, the Treasury Department announced it froze over $300 million in cryptocurrency, part of the same operation. Combined with the active U.S. naval blockade, which is costing Iran an estimated hundreds of millions of dollars in export revenue every single day, the numbers are becoming unsurvivable. Karg Island, Iran's primary oil export terminal, is approaching maximum storage capacity. When tanks are full and ships can't leave, Iran will be forced to reduce production, meaning an additional $170 million per day in lost revenue on top of what's already gone. The Treasury statement was explicit. Permanent damage to Iran's oil infrastructure is now the stated goal, not temporary disruption, permanent damage. And the UAE is no longer a workaround Iran can use to escape any of this. The shadow banking doors are closing. The shell company loopholes are being sealed. The crypto accounts are frozen. And critically, Iranians aren't just losing the ability to evade sanctions. They're losing money they already moved out of the country and believed was safe. There is no replacement for what the UAE provided. No other country offers the same volume of financial flow, the same legal ambiguity, and the same global access. Iran built its financial survival around one country, and that country just left OPEC, handed Washington the keys to every account, and is publicly saying that trust, not just relations, but trust, will take ages and ages to rebuild. You can't be attacked with 2,800 missiles and drones and then talk about trust. That's not our word. That's the direct statement of a UAE official this week. Inside Iran, the picture being shared by those who can break through the internet blackout, 90 million Iranians still cut off from the outside world, is one of economic freefall. A leaked internal presentation, reportedly shared with senior regime managers, concluded that Iran is approaching economic collapse. That is not a Western analyst's assessment. That is from inside the system. The internal debate now running through the regime is exactly what you'd expect from a government that built its ideology on defiance but can no longer afford it. The pro-deal faction argues the regime cannot survive without an agreement. The anti-deal faction insists Iran has the upper hand and should not concede. Both sides are negotiating around a second peace proposal after the United States rejected the first version. Details of the second version are not yet confirmed, and the moment they are, we will cover it immediately. What we do know is that the US is exploring a framing where Iran agrees to a uranium enrichment moratorium, not a permanent ban, but a 20-year pause in a structure that doesn't visually look like a surrender, even if it functions as one. There's a lesson from history here. When the Soviet Union collapsed in 1991, George H.W. Bush didn't gloat. He managed the fall carefully, knowing that humiliating a nuclear-armed regime creates chaos, not victory. The current U.S. approach appears to be drawing from the same playbook. Whether that produces a deal or whether Iran's internal collapse accelerates faster than diplomacy can move is the defining question of the next 30 days. Iran responded to the UAE's moves this week with threats. Its National Security Committee warned that the UAE is aligning with America for a renewed attack and that it will be, quote, taught a lesson. The Gulf Cooperation Council, Bahrain, Kuwait, Oman, Qatar, Saudi Arabia, and the UAE responded collectively, rejecting Iran's claims of control over the Strait of Hormuz and firmly refusing any fees for tanker passage through the shipping lane. 6 countries, one voice. Iran, for all its threats, is facing a region that has lost patience, a financial system being systematically dismantled, and an internal economy that its own officials are describing as collapse. A country winning a war does not hide its leadership in underground bunkers. A country winning a war does not have its own economists calling for emergency reports on economic freefall. Iran is not winning, and the people who claim otherwise need to see the full picture, which is exactly why sharing this video matters. To understand why Iran is behaving this way, why it attacked the country, keeping it alive, why it believes threats still work, why the regime seems incapable of rational self-preservation, you have to go back further than 1979. You have to go back to the Qajar dynasty in the 19th century and trace the decisions that locked Iran into this pattern of governance. The history is extraordinary, and we've broken it down in a multi-part deep dive available right now via the link in the description. Watch it after this. The past explains everything happening today. If this coverage is giving you clarity that you're not getting elsewhere, subscribe, not for us, but because this story is moving every single day, and you'll want to be here when the next piece drops.